MMA right now. How much MMA do you watch? Actually, that's something that I wanted to ask you right off the bat. Is because right now Tuesday night Contender Series going on. You fought on the Contender Series. Do you even watch that?
I have not watched that in the longest time. I did see where they had that 17-year-old kid win and get a contract though, but I haven't watched that show probably since the second season.
Yeah, I haven't watched it for a while as well, man. I'm too busy, man. I'm doing this stuff, and life outside of
Yeah.
fighting is good too.
When it's on, I'm at the gym. I'm teaching class, or I'm training wrestling around that time. So I mean, I watch a lot of MMA, like even not just even the UFC, but other fights too. But I don't have time to watch Contender Series really. It's
Yeah.
during the bad time. But
Yeah, I think it is a bad time. What do you think of a 17-year-old kid? A 17-year-old kid in the UFC, man. I have mixed feelings about that.
I didn't get to watch his fights. I know he trains up there with some buddies of mine over in Vegas, but I haven't seen him. But I mean, good for him. I didn't start training until I was 20, so for him to make it to the UFC at 17 is crazy. I know Max made it at 18, and he was killing it. So maybe this kid will do the same.
Is this just a telling sign of like how good fighters are becoming, the next generation?
Oh yeah, because now you got to think. Like I said, I didn't start till I was 20, but when I was growing up, like football, baseball, those were the main sports to play. Now this is in there, so you have people doing this from my son's doing it at 3 years old now. So I mean, by the time you're 17, yeah, you should be able to make it to the UFC. So yeah, it's just the sport growing, and man, it's gonna be. I think it's gonna get better
Yeah,
every year.
and I was asking this to another fighter who's also fighting in the UFC right now. It's like who would want to be matched up against a teenager, a 17-year-old kid, right? It's like it's a tough
It's a,
task.
it's. I mean, it's a lose lose. For one, that dude's gonna have. I mean, at 17 years old, it was hard for me to get tired. But two, if you beat me, beat a 17-year-old. That wasn't supposed to beat you. If you lose, you lost to a 17-year-old. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
it's
don't know if they give them to me though. I'm trying to fuck them up. Fuck it.
for sure, man, for sure. Well, you're gonna try to fuck somebody up on October 15th, man. You return to the cage against Mana Martinez. When you got his name, what I mean, when it came across your table, what did you know about him initially?
I honestly thought that was going to be a fight that I had to have before I got back into the UFC because at that time he wasn't in the UFC and the promoter for one of the organizations I was fighting for down here is like, you see anybody good that you might want to fight? I was like, shit, I gave him his name. I was like, I'll fight him. So I thought I was going to fight him beforehand. So now, I mean, even better.
Yeah,
We're
for
both in
sure,
the UFC, so we get paid good for it.
definitely. And what do you see in his style?
Uh, Good boxer. If you stand right in front of him, he's gonna put together some good boxing combinations. I know he has like a karate or taekwondo background. He doesn't use it quite as much, but other than that, as long as you're not standing right in front of him, it gives him a little bit of problems. But he's good. He has some power. Goes southpaw most of the time, but a switch, and he has a lot of power in that left hand. So don't stand right in front of him and get hit with that left hand.
From what I remember, he kind of has a stance where his hands are somewhat low, right? Am I wrong about that?
I mean, he does like
Yeah.
his last fight he did like all this crazy stuff. I don't know what that was. But yeah, he doesn't he'll put his hands wherever. It's not like a traditional stance.
What does that do to you when you prepare for a guy like that, where a guy's not the traditional like hands up like this coming forward?
Uh it makes it trickier. Is There's good and bads for him and for me. Like the good is he doesn't always have his hands up so you can land the shot, but the bad part is for me that it's hard to see where the strikes are coming from if they're not always from right here, then you can see that a little easier. But whenever they throw them from down here, like when I fought Randy Costa, the punches are just coming at a weird angle, so it's a little bit tougher at that end, but it's a little easier to land sometimes too. So it's a good and bad for both people.
After you faced like some of the best dudes in at bantamweight and featherweight in the UFC, you went back to the local circuit, but you won every single fight, man. I believe four in a row. How was the competition compared to 2017 when you were in the regional scene?
It was I don't know. The first guy I fought. We were supposed to fight at 155, and he missed weight. I think he was about 175, but we still fought anyways. I was like,
Damn.
man, I came to fight, so I'm fighting anyways. Now I think I weighed in at 152.
Okay.
I was in shape, so I was keeping my weight down. Um, and then I fought another guy that was undefeated, but he was a little more green, so uh, I knew I could just uh put a little pace on him and then try to finish him. Then the next guy I fought had a lot of fights. I think he had 60 something to fight. So
Yeah.
Rachel Gio, he is experienced. And then the last guy I fought, uh, Ryan Collins. No, what was his name? Not Ryan
Josh
Collins.
Huber.
Josh Hoover. He I think he was 16-4 or something. He had a really good record,
Yeah.
and he went all 3 rounds with Corey Sandhagen, or I think they had a title fight. It might have been 3 or 5 rounds with Corey Sandhagen. And he was the southpaw, like this guy that I'm going against. So I'd worked a lot on southpaw and going against southpaw, and literally the strikes that I'd been working on is what stopped him. So I'm hoping the same thing can happen this fight.
Definitely, man. And in other interviews, you talked about fighting on the regional scene with a torn ACL the whole time. You know what I mean? Like, how did you manage doing that?
Uh, had to make sure I didn't throw any left kicks because I could throw the right leg because you can kick with it, but if you try to balance or stabilize on it, that's when it gives. So no left kicks, and then there's no left kicks. I had to not pivot too hard, so it took away some of my power off my right hand and started going a little more southpaw. So I started training a lot of southpaw then, so that I could pivot and throw hard, straight left and left hooks. So I mean, it actually made me a better fighter because I had to train stances and do stuff that I wasn't trying to do before. So, but as far as that, I knew I was good enough to make it back to the UFC, so I was going to bide my time and make it back to the UFC and let them pay for it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, man. Like I always say, fighters are the best at adapting to something. You just explained, you had a knee injury, you just adapted to it, and most people, regular people would have been just laying on the couch, like feeling sorry for themselves, right? So,
Yeah, like I see Mac Jones go down in this Patriots game the other day, and it was a high ankle sprain. It did look like it hurt, but they're acting crazy, like carrying him off the field. You can see him yelling and stuff. And then you watch Thiago Santos fighting John Jones and or whoever he was fighting that time.
John Jones, yeah,
Was it John Jones? And
I think
yeah,
so.
and fighting with the torn ACL and torn MCL and everything the whole time. I mean, it's a different beast in the fight game.
And you had two surgeries after your return to the UFC. Was it mentally draining going through all of that? Going through two surgeries when you're supposed to only have one.
I mean, no, it sucked just because I had to stay in the hospital for 4 or 5 days. Can't remember. And then they were trying to tell me they were going to have me on a pick line, which is I at home IV for 6 weeks, which means I wouldn't have been able to go anywhere or do anything because I always had to have the IV in me. Like, but then they ended up just giving me oral antibiotics, so it wasn't too bad. So with that, I mean, they told me it only set me back a week or so. So I was like, all right, got out and went like literally the day of surgery. After surgery, they were trying to give me some pain meds. I was like, I don't want any pain meds, nothing. I was up walking and I was ready to go so I can get back to training.
Why did you not want to take any payments? Is it because like people get addicted to them? Is that was did that kind of worry you a little bit?
No, I'm not worried about anything like that.
Mm.
For one, I don't like the way they make me feel. Like I like to be able to focus on what I need to, and that kind of puts you in like a foggy, kind of hazy state, and I don't like that. And two, I mean, it's just a little bit of pain. It ain't that bad. People make it out to be way worse than what it is.
So you go through rehab. You're going through rehab during that time. How did you keep yourself busy? Because fighters, man, if they don't train, some of them really lose it. You know what I mean? They're like they're about to explode.
Oh, I was training. My doctor and my physical therapist were mad at me, but I was training.
What did they say? Like they just shake their head.
Wrong move, and you're gonna tear it. And you're gonna have to go back through it all again. And I was like, well, I'm gonna make sure I don't do that. So I mean, I kept it to, like I said, I could throw my jab, or I could be southpaw, and I could throw my jab from there. Stuff where I didn't put like a bunch of torque on there, so it made me get better at a lot of stuff because I had to practice just on that stuff for that time period.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. And I believe you're cleared in August. Why did they take so long to get you booked?
Uh, I got cleared. What was it, August 1st? Yeah, I don't know honestly. Maybe he wanted to see if I was ready or to see if I'd be in shape. And I told them I'd be in shape right when it happens, whenever they clear me, because I was already back running and everything, so I was like, I'm gonna be in shape for the fight right then. So, I mean, honestly, I don't know. That's just up to Sean Shelby and them. It just is what it is.
You know, you fought at bantamweight and featherweight. What's the difference? How do you feel? What's better about bantamweight for you?
Oh, I have to be 100% prepared as far as like be in the best shape of my life. Uh, Eat really good, be strict on my eating, be strict on my cardio, and I'm not running like 20 miles a day anymore or anything. I still run a good bit, but when I want to. But so I'm always going to be in shape at 35. At 45, I could slack off uh, and eat something here or there, or do whatever, and not have to run every day. And so I might not be in as good a shape for the fight. So 35 is better for me. I do feel like I could take harder punches at 45, but I still take hard punches at 35 as well. So
Yeah. Well, seems like 35 is the division now, right? It's like the
oh,
best division in the promotion.
it's super deep. Like you got to get to like the 30s to not even know people that aren't killing it.
Exactly, man. I was talking to Dan Hooker, and when he went down to 145, he said the same thing. He's like, I feel more dialed in, I feel more focused. All of that just because I have to watch, everything. I have to calculate everything, and that's good to hear, man. For you, you're gonna return, man. What do you expect out of yourself? What kind of performance do you want to have?
Uh, Man, I mean, I want to get a win. I usually get in there and I'm having fun. Like I have too much fun fighting. Like there's been a few fights in the UFC. I could have probably finished
Mm-hmm.
the person, but I'm in there and I hit him with a good shot and I point and laugh and I enjoy fighting. So 15 minutes. Like I train 6 weeks. Like I only get to fight for 15 minutes max. So I usually take my 15 minutes. I'm going in there and I'm trying to finish this fight. I don't care about having fun. What's fun is staying in the UFC and keep getting paid and work my way up to get a title. But right now, I'm not even thinking about a title. I'm coming out here thinking about winning this fight and finishing him before the 15 minutes. And if I don't finish him, I don't finish him. But it's not going to be because I was in there just having a good time.
Yeah. Sometimes you do see fighters that are enjoying it a little too much and they kind of lose focus of like why they're in there. What's the reason
Yeah,
for?
100%. And
Yeah.
I'm mind where I need to though.
One last thing, man, I want to pick your brain about. You faced him before Zabit. He retires. What was your reaction to the news of him retiring? Because he was like at the top, right? He was about to fight for the title.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. I don't know if your heart's not in it. Definitely don't do it anymore. But I don't know. It's strange to me. I would like to have that fight again in the future. Let me win some more fights. But I did good the first round. I took that fight on super short notice, and I had 3 herniated discs in my back. So if they had let me have that fight again later, I would definitely take that if I was on a winning streak. But if he doesn't like it, if he doesn't want to fight, then good for him. I think he's trying to be a doctor or something. Go do that. But if you're not trying to fight and you keep fighting, that's when you start to get hurt.
That first round, man, it showed like the potential you have. I think, like, because
I
Zabit was
mean,
a title challenger.
him, Giga. I mean,
Yeah,
Young Ho Kong's killing it. He's on a
yeah,
streak.
yeah.
I felt like I won that fight even with through the head kick in the third round and slipped and he got on top. I mean, you got to think about all the people that I fought that have been close fights. Giga split decision. It was a draw. They called it, and then they went back 15 minutes later and changed it to split decision. Then Kyung Ho Kong split decision loss. Zabit, I won the first round. Started to get a little tired in the second round. If I could have made it to the third, he would have been tired too, though, because he doesn't have a good gas tank. I mean, Randy Costa's been killing it. I mean, if you think about all the people I fought in my first stint, I mean, none of them were
Killers.
really bumped.
Yeah,
Yeah,
killers.
killed. So, and you see how I held with them. I mean,
Yeah.
just that little bit of difference with how my mindset is now, where I'm not in there having fun. I'm trying to. Then I think I would. I think I finish. I think I win those fights, and then I'm in a completely different spot. But it is what it is. That's here. I mean, ifs and buts.
Yeah.
So.
But man, you got another chance, man, which is the best part of it, man. Not many fighters get to come back and try it again, man. I'm hoping that all the best to you, man, on your future with the UFC. Thank you so much, Brandon, for the time.
Thank you.